the argument that the greater good is served by an economic hub, a transportation hub, and that's going to come with some costs.
That's right. So we understand and the fair supports the economic engine that is O'Hare. But on this, I'm going to respectfully disagree with Professor Gelman and say that we live in a democracy. I call Chicago a sometime democracy. There's some amount of citizen input that still exists here. And you cannot do an $8 billion project that's going to impact tens of thousands of people and say, well, the people aren't smart enough to figure it out. I reject that wholesale. We should have been notified. We should have had hundreds of hearings before this went in. And actually, from a planning standpoint, right, so the idea is that you do this civic engagement up front so that at least people can say, yeah, we know that we have noise. We know planes going overhead. But we had a chance to have a say. And that's what did not happen here. And that's why this has turned into such a political hot potato in the region.
Professor Gelman?
Consider that airplanes are getting quieter all the time. The newer ones are much quieter than the older ones. The older ones are disappearing. So that will ameliorate the problem in part. In addition to which, you have to do an evaluation of the economic benefits to the community that O'Hare brings to the table. Now, those economic benefits are much greater with a east-west flow where you have maximum runway acceptance rates. That is, you can do as much work with those runways as possible. And if some people are aggrieved about this, that's true, but it's also unfortunate. Now, one last thing about it is you can deal with the noise in part by insulating homes. Los Angeles has done it, other communities have done it, and you could do it here.
But as I cough my way through this, I talked to a colleague of mine over in NBC. She doesn't meet the noise threshold.
Right.
She just bought $1,000 triple pane glass for her bedroom. And so the costs and the recovery are pretty difficult.
That's right, and we at the Fair Coalition support the need for noise abatement, noise insulation, but the idea is not to be a prisoner in your own home. So the idea that, well, you can just have your noise your house insulated, and then you can't ever leave the house then? Is that the idea? You can't go to the park, to your yard, because you can't insulate that.
Just out of curiosity, do you live under this flight pattern?
I do live under the flight pattern, but outside the noise contour, so I do not qualify for noise insulation.
Heather, do you live under it?
I do, actually, and part of the issue is that the modernization program won't be complete until 2020 at the earliest, and that's assuming that everything stays on schedule. Once that's complete, they'll redo the noise study, and then ostensibly, perhaps, Jack, maybe me, Colleen Mulcrone, will qualify for subsidized soundproofing. What that will actually mean and whether it will improve people's ability to sleep through the night, I think is an open question.
Professor Gelman, do you live under it?
Quite a distance from O'Hare, one of the patterns does go over my house, but I knew that before I bought the house in '92, I think it was.